I'm now speaking with Tom Didier, 3rd District City Councilman. Tom, you've had how many terms? This is ending your first term?
Right now I'm in my 3rd term.
Your 3rd term?
3rd term.
Why are you seeking re-election? What is it about this job that really has you focused on meeting the needs of the people?
Well, you kind of hit the nail right there. I personally enjoy working with the people, working with the neighborhoods. I enjoy solving the issues that they have at hand. I try my best to get back with every constituent if they call me, if they send me an email. I had one situation where I had so many phone calls. It was at a particular time, it was like last year, and it was just so many phone calls and so many emails. It took me almost 3 weeks to get back to this one person. And she was quite upset. But after I explained the situation and told her that I have a full-time job besides doing the council, and I said I was going in order of the phone calls that I had received and the emails that I had received to try and get their problems and the solutions that they needed, and it just got held up. It was somebody in Tower Heights, and which is the far west of my district. But I did get back with her, and I did get the problem that she had rectified. And and that's the thing, that most people, when I talk to them, they're mostly very patient with me and understanding of what I'm trying to do as a council person. I think the biggest thing, the biggest misconception that people have is that we have all this leverage to do all these things, and really what it is, it's really to facilitate a lot of things for the constituents and make sure that like say if they have a sidewalk project, or if they have curb projects, or if they have streets that are going to be wanting to be done in the future, or lights being out in their neighborhoods. Some things are minor, some things are a little bit more major, but every time I talk to someone, I treat them the exact same, and I give them the utmost respect, and I think that that's the thing that could be lacking in today's society. We have to give everyone mutual respect, and I think that that's the thing that I look for in myself, to make sure that make sure everything's getting accomplished that can get accomplished.
Well, let me ask you this now. 3 terms, what, 12 years?
Almost 12 years.
Almost 12 years, all right. When you look back, you're probably in business then. What made you decide to come off the sidelines and get involved in this game? I mean, there had to be something that triggered your desire to just...
Well, someone asked me to run. So, and I had, at first, a year before that, they had asked me to run for county council. And then they had found someone, and they said, Tom, we found somebody else to run for county council. So we appreciate your motivation of wanting to do this, because I've voted in every election since I was 18 years old. So I mean, I understood the premises of what I'm wanting to do, and I thought, I enjoy being involved in the community. I mean, I've done different fundraisers for different people, for like the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, different things, in my lifetime. And I thought, this happened afterwards, but I mean, I've always been involved with my church and involved in, helping other people. It just happened that, this was an opportunity for me to get involved in the political aspect of it. And like I said, I voted in every election, and I thought, I could do this. And I'll tell you, the first couple of years it was, just learning. I kept my ears open, and I listened a lot, and tried to get a grasp of what is really going on. And it takes a long time to get a good understanding of what is actually needing to be done. And really, can't believe how much it's changed in the 11.5 years that I've been on council. Just the way the neighborhoods have changed, and the way the people have, everything's so much more technology savvy, and so people are moving in that direction. So I mean, we didn't have 311 when I first got elected, so I got a lot more phone calls than I do now.
But what I'm driving at is you have a good story here, because All right, so you've been voting since you were 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That activist responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
or to be involved like that, it had to start someplace. I mean,
My
is that your
parents.
or
Yeah,
grandparents?
my mother and my father, they always voted in every election. My father fought in World War II. He was in the South Pacific at Iwo Jima, like 5 days after they landed on the island, because he went on the island himself with Father Slimak, and he had to help bury the men that died, because he was with Father Slimak as the chaplain's assistant. So my father and my mother instilled in us, even when I had the work ethic, when I worked for my dad at Didier Meats, they just instilled a work ethic in us. I started working when I was just a little over, I was almost 12, I was 11 years old. And, they just set up a responsibility within ourselves of who we are and what we need to do in life. And it was always to help the people, whether they're rich or poor, whether they're wearing a three-piece suit or whether they're wearing rags. My father and my mother taught us respect. Whether they were black or white, it didn't matter. And so that was the thing that we were instilled as, Catholic Christians, And my dad and my mother were very, very respectful people. And they didn't want us to ever, you could never treat anybody with disrespect, because they felt that it was wrong, and which it is. Everybody should be treated in the correct manner. So, and that's what I try to do with everybody that I talk to. I may not always agree with everybody. I may not always agree with everybody's philosophy in their life, because I follow the 10 Commandments and I follow the God-given laws that are there. So when somebody follows something else or goes in a different direction, that's their own prerogative. And I'm not going to mistreat them. I'm not going to be disrespectful to them. But I may not agree with them. You see what I'm saying? But my mother and father are the ones that instilled that in us. That's what needs to be done in society today. So
it goes. The reason I was persistent in wanting to find it out is because today, I still think that it's still important to get younger people involved.
I agree.
And if a younger person knows your example, what you went through, I think that is a connecting piece that is not often part of you downtown officials. Because what I found out in the past few months here is that you intimidate a lot of people, and a lot of people are afraid to speak with you and to share with you what's on their mind because you represent downtown.
Well, see, and I actually don't represent the downtown in itself. I represent the 3rd District, which is the Northwest Quadrant. So that's Jeff Paddock's district, the downtown. Well, and what you're meaning is that I'm always approachable. If you meet me in a grocery store or you meet me at the mall, you don't know me from Adam other than seeing me on television or seeing me at a city council meeting or seeing me at a hockey game because I sing the National Anthem. I'm as approachable as anybody, and people come up to me all the time. Now, whether they feel intimidated on whether they want to come up and talk to me, that is their own prerogative. But me personally, you can ask anyone. I will talk to anybody.
You sing the National Anthem
at every hockey game. Well, I did for 25 years. Now they kind of intertwine it with schools and things like that. But no, I've been singing it since 1990 at the hockey games. And I did the Fury, which is now the Mad Ants, and I've done the Wizards and the Tin Caps, and all kinds of high school events. I started out singing the National Anthem at Northside High School for the gymnastics. When my cousins used to be in gymnastics there in the early 80s. And then that propelled me into eventually singing the National Anthem I actually sang when the Chicago Bears came here and played basketball in 1984, 85 or something like that. Walter Payton was here and a bunch of other football players were here, and they had a charity basketball out at the Coliseum, and that was the first time I ever sang a National Anthem in front of 10,000 people or 8,000 people, however many was there. It was packed. Okay. For that charity basketball game. But those are the kinds of things that I've always been involved in public service. Singing at church, helping with the community, whether it's, the Franciscan Centers, Community Harvest Food Bank, if people need food or whatever, St. Mary's Soup Kitchen. Those are the kinds of things that I do. That people, just because I'm wearing a suit doesn't mean that's not who I am. You know, I mean, my father always, because Monday through Saturday he worked, and on Sunday my dad wore a suit, and he always, you know, he went to church every Sunday, and he always looked impeccable, because that was the only day that he had the opportunity to do that. But my father liked to dress. He liked to dress nice, and he taught us that. Even though we didn't have a lot of money, you know, when we were younger. I mean, you know, there's 12 of us, so, I mean, we didn't have a lot of money. Even though we had the stores and things like that, we never went hungry, but, you know, it wasn't as easy as everybody thinks it is, just because you own your own business, so.
Well, what I found is, if you do things with grace and don't show any pressure, people think it's easy.
Right. Humility is the biggest thing. My mother and father just instilled that in us. You know, whether people think that or not about who I am as a person, that, I mean, that is what I want to portray myself as a humble servant. You know, and not somebody that's proud or arrogant or something like that. Because I'm not the one that's doing all this. I mean, I'm just the tool that's being used right now. And if I'm graced to be able to continue that, you know, use of that tool, God may put me in a different plan. I don't know. Right now, my plan, from what I'm told, is to stay on city council. And, you know, I could run for mayor someday, but right now that's not in the cards. Although people have asked me to, but
well, that was a question coming up.
Well, and it's a question that gets asked all the time. But you know what? It has to be the right timing, and it has to be something that is desired within me, because, you know, I mean, I do love to sing for God, and I do love singing with the group that I'm in, another group that I'm in, and I do enjoy all the public service work that I get to do. But I enjoy being able to go home to my family and put my feet up, and occasionally spend an evening with them, having dinner and things like that. So, you know, if you're the mayor, I know how busy our mayor is. So, and it's not that I don't have a 24-hour day job, but it's different than his 24-hour day job. Because once you're a public official, you're on the clock 24 hours, whether you feel you are or aren't. And I enjoy helping people. So until the passion's gone, you know, and I need to move on to something else, then I hope that people will elect me again, because I do enjoy it.
You know, one thing I was curious about is, over this past year, Fort Wayne has sent people to Iowa, you know, all over the entire universe, trying to find solutions to problems to, you know, that they can apply here in Fort Wayne. And, you know, in fact, it seems as though people were confused as to what Fort Wayne's identity is. And why is that, and what do you see the identity of Fort Wayne being?
Well, I mean, Fort Wayne's a unique city in itself. I mean, we have to press forward. We can't regress in any way, shape, or form, because if we do regress, you know, then we're going to end up in a situation that I don't think would be healthy for growth. It's like anything my father always says, you know, you have to continue to grow, you have to continue to nurture. It's the same thing we have to do. And what all you're doing when you're going to Iowa, or if you're going to Charlotte, North Carolina, or South Carolina, or wherever they went, you're going to look and see what they've done and what would fit possibly, or what might not fit. Because Des Moines, Iowa is a fairly large city, and it's, you know, it's not as big as Indianapolis, but it has a lot of young professionals, and they're high-paying jobs, and those high-paying jobs, you know, they coordinate into higher amounts of tax dollars that can come to the city, which in turn, you know, makes the city a better city, you know. And that's just one avenue. That's just one aspect of it.
Well, you know, I'm going to ask you this. Well, even with all the focus on downtown improvement and the waterways and what have you, one thing that's always struck me as interesting is, you know, I'm in total agreement with that. I think it'll be beautiful. But, you know, when it rains and snows, I mean, for thousands of years, that's been a swamp. And ever how sophisticated the engineers are, you can't outmaneuver Mother Nature.
Well, I would agree with you. I mean, the way they're going to, I guess they're going to be, some of it's going to be floating docks and things like that. Okay. Which, you know, I mean, I'm no engineer. You know, I know that there's only so much that you can do down there to make it more pliable, I guess. There's parts of it that are in floodplains, parts of it that aren't in floodplains, and you know, that was what Headwaters Park was basically done for, because they wanted to make it the way it is so that if it did flood, it would flood into the park and you wouldn't have the issues, you know, with any type of structures. Well, now they're thinking of possibly putting structures here, and you know, people I don't believe will be swimming in the river. They'll be using the different facilities that'll be close to the river. They'll have beach areas, but they won't use the water to go into. I don't think they may. I don't know.
I mean, that's...
I know there's a lot of answers. I can tell you that the legacy process and this particular project is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts right now. I mean, on what could happen to the Three Rivers, because we're not San Antonio, Texas, where, you know, it's nice 9 months out of the year, you know, or 10 months out of the year. You know, they have a couple of bad months where it's snowing and rainy and that and stuff like that. But I am into tourism. You know,
sure.
Tourism is a huge dollar figure that can help the community as a whole.
All right, let me ask you, okay, since you mentioned tourism, right now, New Orleans is celebrating the end of the War of 1812, which was 1815. And in all the documentaries that you watch about that, it always mentions that they can leave New Orleans and go to Canada, Montreal, and make one stop right here. And it seems as though as we put forth our mental energies, that we just totally ignore the total greatness, the original things that this land here has in American history. We just ignore that, and we look for other ideas, other places. I mean, other cities, especially going east or almost anywhere, that have had catastrophes. They turn those catastrophes into marketing opportunities. And when you sit back and look here, there's never been a movie made about this land here, which caused the most Americans in U.S. history to die fighting over this land here. I mean, this Fort Wayne has such unique history that should make everybody stand up and just beat their chest as to who we are. But instead, we seem to look out other places to get their ideas instead of looking inside at ourselves.
Well, you make a good point. I mean, because there is a tremendous amount of history going for it. You probably know it better than I do. I like the song.
Excuse me.
But there's a tremendous amount of history here, and I'm sure you could give me a better history lesson than I would be able to give you. But you know, most of what I know is the General Anthony Wayne story and all that, and what goes with that. You know, so I mean, Fort Wayne in itself, we have to not recreate ourselves, but we have to put ourselves on the map. We have to put ourselves on the map, and how we do that, you know, it's like anything. You know, like I'm in sales, all right, and the guy that's the #1 salesman for our company, a lot of people aspire to be like him, but you have to understand he's the only one. You see what I'm saying? It's like he's the #1 guy, and it's because of the qualities of who he is as a person and how he sells. The same thing that goes to play for the city. Fort Wayne is a great city, and it could be that #1 city in the state of Indiana. It just has to follow the right path. There's things that have to happen that are possibly missing, you know, and what those are, I guess, is to come to fruition. You know,
sure.
But we have to create some of this on our own, because you know, 30 years from now, I'm going to be 84 years old, and I'll be looking on the other side, you know, of the glass now. You know, where now I've got the focus, I've got the energy, and I'm trying to see what we can
sure.
do to make this a better city. Because I think that some of our forefathers, I'm not blaming them, there was things that they missed that they could have done to make this city even greater than it was. But I think we got complacent, and that's the thing you cannot do. You cannot be complacent, especially in today's world and in today's society, because complacency it causes us to go in the wrong direction.
Sure. And what you just said here, in 30 years, you'll be in your 80s.
Yes.
But in 30 years, Fort Wayne will still have the same history. That never changes.
It doesn't change, but what you want to do is you want to accentuate off of that
sure.
history. But, you know, like we have a history center. We've had a history center for almost 20 years now. And are we utilizing it to the potential that we could? Probably not. I mean, it just isn't. It was the old city hall up until 1971. So, I mean, that's the thing that I'm talking about. It's like we're not accentuating it the way it possibly should be done. But, you know, people have other ideas, they have other focuses, and, you know, they're trying to recreate the wheel, and it doesn't need to be recreated. I think is what you're saying.
Yes, the wheel is good, just you don't know that it rolls. See, they, you know. But let me ask you, you know, to get away from that for a moment, Fort Wayne also is going through a process here of an inclusion movement.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we want to bring in the newly arrived ethnic groups here, the newly created gender groups, and real tall people, real short people. You know, we want to have a big group hug because we want to be inclusive and just be a happy family here. But what I've noticed here is to have an inclusion movement implies that there was exclusion at some point.
Well, I personally think exclusion's been a part of society. I mean, ever since I was in high school, I mean, I used to get picked on like crazy in high school. I mean, I got bullied. A lot of people don't know that, but I got bullied for all 4 years of high school. So it's like, you know, somebody wants to be in this crowd, somebody wants to be in this crowd. It's the same type of situation. It's been like that since the dawn of man. What happened with that, you know, with Cain and Abel? I mean, he killed his own brother. So it's like, there's always an exclusion because one thing's one. I mean, I don't know why it's like that. I don't have the answer for that question. You know, I just told you at the beginning when I stated it, I don't agree with everybody's philosophy in life. Don't believe in all their ideologies and everything else, but I respect who they are as a person. You see what I'm saying? I mean, there's one thing, because I want them to respect me in the same manner, because I'm a Catholic Christian. It's important to me. And whether they believe the way they believe, they might be a, you know, Jewish person or Muslim or whatever. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna push myself on them, but I want them to respect me in the same way I respect them. Even though I may not have the same ideologies and agreements with them, it doesn't mean that we can't, you know, row in the same boat. Does that make sense?
Sure. I'll have, you know, hopefully, you know, in the future we can talk again here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because great background here, a lot of things that you're involved with. But tell me, you know, right now, what are the key issues that you're having that are on your table right now that that you're confronted with that people need to know how serious they are?
Well, I think, well, that's a hard question because it's just like so monumental in the aspects of. I think the big thing is really making sure that the legacy dollars are taken care of properly so that they're there for future generations. I really do believe that that's something that has to be caretaken, and it needs to be looked at and make sure that, you know, I'm on the legacy coordination team, and I can tell you that I really want to make sure that those dollars are there for future generations. I also want to make sure that, you know, that we're doing all we can with the streets and the sewer project that we've got going on right now, the consent decree. I want to make sure that gets done and comes to fruition. And also I want to, you know, make sure that I'm working with all the projects that have been started, like the State Boulevard widening project that's going to be, you know, like it's going to be, you know, amazingly beautiful when it gets done. And that'll happen in my, you know, hopefully my next term. You know, those are the types of things. I want to see the trails. I want to see the bridges that come over State Street, and the bridges that, you know, that possibly will go over Lima Road, and all the things that will possibly happen with all the trails that we could do in our community to make them better. And just watch the different corporations come into our community and work with them in making sure that we're the type of community that they want to come in, you know.
But in a nutshell, what I'm getting at is what do people need to know about you that they perhaps didn't know about how this singer, family entrepreneurship, public servant, how those things work together to create an entity that they don't quite understand?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty I'm pretty, it might seem complex, but it's fairly simple. And the simplicity is that I'm here to help the people in whatever endeavor they're possibly wanting to move in whatever direction they want to do it. And a true leader, I mean, a true leader is the one that actually leads. A leader takes the suggestions and works together with the people and says, okay, is this the best thing for the community as a whole? And, you know, I had some people that had opposition for State Street. Here's a perfect example. But I had people that had opposition for Washington Center Road widening when we did that. But the thing that it was loud. It got really loud, and people were very, very upset about Washington Center Road, the widening. And you know what? I said, look, I got with the Board of Public Works, got with the Transportation Department. I said, look, this thing's getting funded by 80%. We need to work with the people in the neighborhoods and make it work. See what we can do to make it work. We sat down with the people. I organized the meetings with Bob Kennedy and with Sean, and at the time it was the other gentleman, Ross, and work with the people and make sure that what we're doing is right for the people, because they were extremely upset. And that's what I think is one of my qualities that I have is trying to coordinate and work with people to make sure that they all are focused on the right energy and going the right for the project. Because all these things, I mean, those were federal dollars that we had that we would never ever gotten. It's sort of like what happened in Texas when Texas got our interstate that was supposed to go through downtown Fort Wayne. It's like I didn't want to see those dollars go to another community, you know. And it's like me working with one of the neighborhood associations on the northwest side of town, which is my area. I'm not going to tell you the neighborhood association because I don't want. But they were having difficulties with their sewers and backups and things like that. And I worked with them. I worked with the city, you know, engineers and said we got to do something to make sure that this gets accomplished in city utilities. You know, because it needs fixed. There's people getting backups and sewage in their houses. See, it's not all glamour. It's not all about the buildings going up downtown like the Ash Center and stuff like that. These are the real problems and the real solutions that need to get accomplished, and those are the things that I do, and I think that I do really I do pretty well, because I like to coordinate with the people that are in charge in there and say, look, this is what needs to get done. This is what needs to get done. This is how it needs to get done, and that's what I try to do. I'm not a Mr. Know-it-all. I just am very confident with who I am as a person. That let's just all get along and let's try and work this thing out some way, somehow. And that's usually what happens. And that's, if you want to know what my attribute is, or one of the better ones that I have, it's working and getting that solution solved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
And thank you for watching.